Hello and welcome to another episode of Agri Art. The Rubus genus consists of various species of briar, which include many tasty wild berries and several species of domesticated fruit. Of the latter, blackberries, raspberries, and their hybrids are common elements. The European blackberry and red raspberry plants were studied and depicted within manuscripts made by ancient Greek and Roman philosophers. These species were considered medicinal for a wide range of pharmacological purposes. Up until modern times, these species were often the most commonly depicted species within botanical art. As a result, in 2007, Dr. Kim Hummer and Dr. Jules Janick did a study to see how these depictions of raspberry and blackberry changed over the ages, from the classical era up to the Renaissance era. And through this, how botanical art changed throughout the history up until the Renaissance era. And here are the results. In prehistoric times, those that dwelt in what is now known as America consumed wild Rubus species, and there are fragments of evidence to suggest this. They were consumed as both a food source and a medicinal plant, and its archaeological evidence dates back to 8000 BCE. Between 500 and 400 BCE, Rubus species were written about within the medical books of Hippocrates and Aeschylus. The former utilized common European blackberry as an ingredient in a poultice for wounds and as a medication for difficult births. Raspberries were harvested by the ancient Greeks as early as 370 BCE, and the famous general Pompey would introduce raspberries into what is now known as modern-day Turkey in 65 BCE. Likewise, in the Hebrew language, the Old Testament of the Bible has several words for a spiny plant, and these words have been attributed to different species of Rubus, mostly to the common European blackberry and its wild subspecies known as the holy bramble. Modern scholars suggest that the burning bush that the divine was made manifest through was a blackberry bush, but this is just speculation right now. In ancient Greece and Rome, different philosophers had different opinions on the Rubus species. Cato viewed them as mere weeds, Critias viewed them as a wonderful fruit, and Dioscorus viewed these species as medicinal plants, specifically to treat thrush, gum disease, shingles, eye prolapses, hemorrhoids, stomach problems, as well as being used as an eye drop. After his death, the different herbals of Dioscordes became the primary source of botanical art for Rubus species in the early eras of botanical art within the West. The primary herbal made by Dioscordes was a manuscript known as the Juliana Annica Codex. This codex was written in the year 512 CE. The book was lost but was found once more and restored by John Costomenos in 1406. This manuscript was later spread across the West through an ambassador of the Emperor Ferdinand in the 14th century, although several derivations would exist prior to that. The most famous picture found within this document is a depiction of a common European blackberry, which can be seen on screen right now. In spite of a few technical inaccuracies, the art is quite accurate. Such inaccuracies include the leaves, which are depicted as being pinnately compound rather than palmately compound. The stems of the leaflets are depicted as being long rather than being short as they are in real life. The flowers are depicted with 6 or 7 petals rather than 5 petals, like they are in the wild. They are depicted as fruiting on the primocane rather than the floricane as they do in the wild. The flowers are depicted as being a raceme instead of a panicle-like chyme, which is what they are like in real life. This may indicate that some liberties were taken for artistic purposes within these art pieces. Various derivations of this manuscript would appear after its publication. The first derivation, the Codex Neapolitanus. This codex was made in 675 CE. It was an attempt to make a smaller version of the Juliana Annica Codex. Some changes emerged, however. The images are more stylized than its predecessor. The images are shown in groups of 4 per page, and the pages were published out of order, an artifact that carried over to his other copies. The second derivation is called the Morgan 652 Codex. It is closer to the original Dioscordes manuscript in art style and depiction. However, 50 pieces of botanical art are missing from this manuscript, along with the introductory texts. This book was written between 927 and 985 CE, and is more botanically accurate than the original, but unlike the Codex Neapolitanus, which is still more botanically accurate than the Dioscorides one. The Morgan 652 Codex is not stylized. The next derivation is called Grecian 2179. This manuscript was made in Egypt in the 9th century. This is the most stylized form of art within any of the herbals during that time period, specifically in regards to Dioscorides derivatives. As a consequence, there are very few details available for scientific analysis within these plant depictions. The last known document of this type was Arab 2850. This book was written in the 13th century, and is made from English and Greek translations from the Dioscorides source document. The art is more akin to Grecian 2179 than it is the original Dioscorides manuscript. Hello, I just want to let you know, if you want to fund this channel, you can do so on the platforms seen in the description below. The next set of documents we will cover are derived from the manuscript known as the Apelius Platonicus Recensions. These documents were made by mixing the work of Dioscorides with the work of the book's writer, Apelius Platonicus. The images within this document are vastly inferior in terms of details and are quite stylized. This document became a source that the Italian, Anglo-Norman, and German herbals are derived from until the Renaissance era. An image of a blackberry can be seen on screen right now, showcasing what the Apelius Platonicus Recensions art depicts. Various derivations of this manuscript would be made over time. The first derivation is called the Eladen Apelius. This document depicts the Rubus species botanically correctly, but in a very stylized form, with spines being replaced with knobs. One of the books that drew from the Apelius Platonicus is the Leech Book of Bald. This is an English book on bloodletting and herbal medicine. It talks extensively about raspberries, specifically for their use in dysentery. The depictions of the Rubus species are highly stylized, and far less accurate than even the Apelius Platonicus documents. The last document of this type was the Bodley 130 Apelius Platonicus, written in 1120 CE. This is another English herbal that seems to be an English translation of Apelius Platonicus, with a more archaic Anglo-style art. The document has botanical art that is stylized, but less so than the Leech Book of Bald. The last set of images are derived from the Renaissance manuscripts. The first one we'll cover is Grandi ou de Anne de Bretagne. I hope I did not butcher that French name. This manuscript is a prayer book made between 1503 and 1508 by Jean Bauchichan. Each painting is labeled with its Latin name in Gothic letters at the top, and its French common name on the bottom of the document. The depictions of common raspberry are 99% accurate, but with one error within the painting. That error being the raspberry that was depicted is black instead of red. The work of Michelangelo and the book known as the Historia Stripitium, Leonhard Fu, are both as close to 100% accurate as you can get in an artistic depiction. The art from both works seem to be drawn directly from a live plant with little to no artistic liberty. Through the study of these art pieces, it appears that the primordial Greek and Roman paintings were trying to find a balance between realism and idealism. In the Middle Ages, there's a trend where art leaned more heavily on the idealism side of things, and drew more from previous art pieces than from the actual plant in the natural world. This process would be reversed during the Renaissance era, where the European cultures began to lean into realism over idealism. And that book covers everything. Thank you for watching.